Hey guys, this is Bruno here from the Real Social Dynamics Inner Circle of Boston, and what I want to share with you is the real reason why most people fail to get bulletproof inner game. Now, what ends up happening, or what you see guys experiencing, is you have two things on two different ends of the spectrum. The first is you know that your inner game is crap, you know that you're not a confident person, that you have all of these insecurities, and you haven't really dealt with that yet, and there's just no question that you're on your journey. Now, these kinds of guys, they're going to consume a ton of content, they're going to read books, they're going to watch videos, and normally they're going to try to do something about it. Now, the second type of person is somebody who's kind of already there. They're intermediates, they see results with women, but ultimately there's that little inconsistent factor. And every once in a while, a toxic little thought will creep up into their conscious mind, and it'll kind of just lurk there, and the person will repress it. Just something small like, damn, I suck, or God, nobody loves me, or just something very, very small. And like I said, that person takes it, they repress it, and they don't think about it anymore. Now, the reason that this affects you is you're never going to get those consistent results until you do one thing. Now, before I can share with you what that one thing is, it's really important that you understand what the mechanism behind all of this is. And the easiest way to explain that is actually with just a simple metaphor. Now, what I want you to imagine is, and close your eyes for this, it'll help out. Imagine your dream girl. Imagine her like she's dancing and she's having a good time, and she's actually just like right outside a castle, and she's partying with her friends, and she's just having a blast. Now, no matter what this girl does, can she knock down the castle that she's right next to? Like, imagine there's like a moat at this castle. Imagine that there's a dragon guarding it on top, that it's just a really, really strong castle. Like, no matter what this girl does, no matter what she's doing with her partying, there's no way that she can knock it down. She can insult it, she could hit it, she could kick it, she could say, like, fuck you, castle, I don't want to dance near you. But ultimately, the castle stays, and it doesn't move. Now, that's kind of the level of inner game that most guys want to have, or that they think they have, but in reality, there's something else going on. Now, what I want you to imagine is that same dream girl of yours, but this time she's in a bikini, she's still partying, she's still having fun, but she's at the beach. And you can hear the waves crashing, you can feel the wind blowing, the sun's beating down, just a hot day at the beach, and that girl's there. Now, as she's partying and having a fun time, what ends up happening is there's this little sandcastle next to her, and she might just accidentally kick it over. She really might not mean to, and it just kind of happened because it was in the way. Now, a lot of guys, they don't have that strong foundational castle. What they really have is actually just a sand castle that if the girl gives them any type of negative emotion or withdraws validation, or she puts on a little pressure in the interaction, the guy goes and blows himself out. And even more than that is that guy's self-esteem, his ego, and his confidence is just easily destroyed by just about anything. Think of a state crash, for example. You could be going and having a fun time, but the minute that your state crashes, you end up going on a downward spiral because that little sandcastle just got knocked over. And what these guys do, the people who have sandcastles for their inner game and their inner beliefs, is they'll go home at the end of the night and they'll pretend like everything is okay and that it's not a big deal. They watch more content, they read more books, they just basically take more sand and put it all together, and then they tell themselves, hey, I'm ready for my next night out, I'm ready to go do this again, my sandcastle's strong, I believe in myself, I love myself, I'm a confident guy, and then poof, they get blown out, and all of a sudden their sandcastle comes down and the cycle repeats. All it is a vicious cycle of you performing mental kung fu, mental ninjutsu to try and basically trick yourself into believing that you are enough, that you do love yourself, etc. Now, the reason that this is happening, and kind of like moving towards the solution aspect of this problem, is deep inside we all have a bar that we've set for ourselves and what defines our happiness, what defines success, and ultimately what we have to do with our lives. But most people don't even know where that bar lies within them. And before I even talk about what the solution is, it's just one of the most, I just want to say that it's probably one of the most mystical, over-talked, and under-explained concepts in all of pickup. And so the goal with this video is really going to be to demystify it, give you that solution so that you know how to move it forward in a very practical manner. And so this one concept is really just being a man on your purpose. And I know you've heard it over and over, but I'm hoping that this video finally nails the head on the coffin for you and you're able to understand and move forward with it. So I'm going to give you 6 or 7 questions that you can use to kind of figure out if you're on your purpose. And then I'm going to go into why you should be on your purpose. And the first thing is, when you wake up every morning, are you able to, do you jump out of bed with excitement, or are you really just like, fuck, another day? If you're not jumping out of bed and you feel okay hitting that snooze button, chances are you're not really on a mission. If you're not looking forward to your day, you're not moving forward in the direction that you want. You don't have that purpose. The second question you can ask yourself is, are you working with something that you love? Most people, they get a job out of fear, or they do what they want out of fear instead of love. And ultimately, they'll go to work every day, they absolutely hate it. Deep down inside, they hate themselves for being too much of a pansy to move forward and look for something that they love. And ultimately, that brings down your self-esteem, your confidence, and you don't actually end up creating that foundational castle. You just try using game as a crutch to feel okay about not making the correct life decisions. Continuing on with that is the next question you got to ask yourself, and this is going to be a complicated one, is, are you on the path to success? And I'm going to diverge and dig deep into this question just for a minute because I think it's very important and a wildly neglected area of success, and it's that people don't really understand when they're moving forward in the right direction, because most people are insight junkies, meaning they love knowledge, they love to read, they love to learn, but they hate to take action and they hate to take risks. Now, the most fucked up part about all of this is as you're being an insight junkie, as you're reading, as you're learning, as you're taking all these courses, as you're going out maybe just 1 or 2 nights a week instead of going out 4 to 5 times a week, you're going to feel okay and you're going to feel satisfied about what you're doing. You're going to feel like you're making legitimate progress and you're going to feel great about it, when in reality, you haven't even broke your comfort zone yet. I'm going to repeat that just because it's so powerful and I want you guys to really think about it. You don't take enough action in proportion to how much you're trying to learn. So you're acquiring all this knowledge, but you should be going out way more if you actually want to apply it and get better. And so bringing it back, are you an insight junkie? Are you somebody who's just acquiring knowledge, or are you taking risks and moving forward in the path that you want with your life? Now, the fourth question that you can ask yourself is really just a standard, how happy am I on a day-to-day basis? Do I love what I'm doing? And once again, if you're going to work every day and you hate what you're doing, then you're probably going to be miserable. If you tell yourself that you need to start hitting the gym, but you don't go to the gym, you're probably going to be internally miserable. What most people hate to hear is that you can't use game as a crutch. You can't maintain the same lifestyle, the same habits, the same hobbies, do the same crap that you do on a day-to-day basis, but then just be like, well, I'm going to learn this game thing, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to feel 100% more confident, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to be attractive, etc. It doesn't work like that. There's no amount of mental kung fu you can perform that's going to take this little sand castle of concept and theory and actually turn it into a brick castle unless you're on your purpose. Now, the final question that I want you to ask yourself is, are you willing to take a risk? Or have you taken risks to be on your purpose, or have you been playing it safe? Now, once again, the reason that I'm giving you all of these tools, all of these questions, is to help identify if you're somebody who isn't on their purpose. Now, the reason that identifying this is going to be so important is because until you meet that bar that you're trying to reach, you're never going to have that rock solid 100% inner game. And at the same token, it's the easiest way to repel negativity, keep people that aren't supposed to be in your life, and basically align your life so that you're accomplishing whatever it is that you want. Now, a lot of people, they always ask, how do you deal with now, just to digress just for a second here, a lot of people always ask, how do you deal with negativity? How do you deal with people wasting your time? And the truth is, when you're on your purpose, that kind of stuff just falls into place for you. When you have shit to do, you don't have time to waste on people who are there to waste your time. You're naturally going to find better friends. You're going to find better people to surround yourself with. And I'm not going to say the universe is going to align everything for you, but you're going to be able to find your own way because you now have direction. And so the next question that I feel like a lot of guys would ask is, well, Bruno, how do I find my purpose? And I think there's two ways of doing it. There's two schools of thought. I personally go with the latter, but I'll explain the former first. And the first one is you got to ask yourself a primal question. What I mean by that is you have a purpose, and it's not going to be a 21st century purpose. So it's not going to be something like, oh, I want to be a software engineer, or I want to be a doctor. It's not going to be anything that would fall into 21st century terminology or modern civilization. It's really going to be a primal question, something maybe that a caveman would be able to say. So something like, to find your purpose is, am I somebody who wants to create? Am I somebody who wants to teach? Am I somebody who wants to heal? Am I somebody who wants to protect? And once you kind of ask these primal questions, these just very basic questions, you're going to have this context for what it is that you want to do. Now, the reason that this is so important and so powerful is because then, once you have this primal question answered and you know what your primal nature is, you're able to apply it into 21st century context. So for example, you ask this question and maybe you figure out after some meditation that you're somebody that you want to heal. Your purpose is to be on this earth and it's to heal others. Then you apply it to 21st century context where you can become a therapist, you can become a doctor, you can become like a Reiki master, you can do all sorts of different professions or different things. And as long as that 21st century context aligns with that primal question of yours, that primal nature, then you're going to be on your purpose and you're going to be able to work towards something that you love. Now, the second school of thought is, and this is personally the one that I use, is that when you're lying on your deathbed and somebody asks you like, hey, tell me about your life. At any point, are you going to say, I wish? Are you going to say something like, man, I wish I hustled harder. Man, I wish I spent more time with my family. Man, I wish I stopped playing video games. Man, I wish I quit my job at McDonald's and did something crazy earlier. And so once you start realizing that, and once you start realizing like, okay, what am I going to think, or how am I going to feel when I'm dying about the way that I'm living my life right now, then it kind of will give you a sense of direction of, am I doing this the right way or am I doing this the wrong way? Am I on my purpose or am I not? And it's really going to come down to a gut feeling. Is, do you feel good about what you're doing or do you not? And so when you're able to take those two concepts, like that primal question and also that like deathbed question, like, am I going to be happy with the life that I lived? And you figure those two things out, then you're kind of able to figure out the middle part of what it is that you're going to want to do. Now, just to be clear, the only way that you're going to be on your purpose is if you've taken a risk. Now, the thing about this is that everybody is really too scared to do it because it's kind of like this leap of faith. Everybody wants to feel 100% confident before they take that leap. They want to feel like, I know that I'm going to make it. And that's kind of why you become an insight junkie, because you want to feel that confidence. And the same thing applies for when you're in the field. So I'm hoping that you can kind of start seeing the juxtaposition, how your life aligns with how your inner game is going to translate into the field. And you kind of got to take that, it's called a leap of faith. And the best analogy that I've heard about it is, imagine you're on a cliff right by, and like there's fog underneath, so you can't really see what's down there. But you're on top of this massive cliff. And you have a parachute with you. Now you jump. But the thing is, that parachute doesn't open right away. And you scrape your back up against the wall of the cliff. You hit a couple of branches on your way down. You get pretty beat up as you're falling. But eventually, as you're falling, your parachute opens and you start to soar. You see what's below the fog. Now, the thing is, if you never jump, if you never take that risk, your parachute never opens and you never fly. You never soar. Because you never took that risk and you always played it safe, you never made it forward. You always stayed at the same place in life. So most people, they're on top of that cliff right now. They're perched. And this is probably you, and you're ready to jump. You know what you want. You know what you want to do. You know what you need to do. But you're coming up with all these excuses not to jump. Or you're too afraid to do it. Or you want to feel more confident. And so once you're able to take that jump and handle all of that pain and all of that risk and all of that insecurity and all of that who knows what's going to happen, you're going to learn to trust yourself. And guess what? Confidence is defined as the ability for somebody to trust in themselves that they're going to be okay. And once you experience that and you've taken that risk and you see that, hey, I made it, that's when your inner game is going to align and you're going to have that super solid foundation. That's when if a girl insults you, you really don't care anymore. That's when rejection doesn't faze you. That's when you know that you're a man on your purpose. It's when you've taken that leap of faith and you've done that thing that you've been afraid to do this entire time. Now, this is about as specific as I can be for you when it comes to taking the leap, taking the risk, finding your purpose as a man, because every single one of you, you have your own individual journey to go through. And the truth is that there's no magic pill that I can create for you to help you find who you're meant to be. There's nothing that I can say or that I can do that's going to open those doors for you or that's going to create that jump for you. There's nothing that I can say or do that's going to bridge the gap between your starting point and your end point. The only thing that I can do is give you enough motivation to jump. So once again, just to recap everything that we've covered over here is you have two types of guys. You have the guys who know that their inner game is shit and they're working on it. And then you have the guys who are intermediate but they're inconsistent. And both of these people are people that aren't living their journey as a man and they're not living it with a purpose. And instead of having a solid foundational castle, this unshakable bulletproof inner game, they have this sand castle that's made out of theories and concepts and fake beliefs that get destroyed on a nightly or weekly basis when they go out, and then they put it together and they call it okay. And if you want to identify, am I somebody who isn't on their journey, the simple questions to ask yourself are, 1, am I waking out of bed? Am I waking up excited every morning? 2, you know what, these are going to be a little bit out of order here. 2, am I on a path to success, or am I an inside junkie who just wants to feel more confident? 3, am I doing something that I love? And I forgot to add this question. I'm going to throw it in real quick. It's, do you waste time? Do you let other people waste your time? Do you waste time playing video games? Do you waste time doing nonsensical things binge watching TV shows? Do you waste time with people that are really dragging you down instead of moving you forward? Do you freely hand out your time to old friends who aren't really there to accompany you on this journey? And 5, have you taken that leap of faith yet? Or is it something that you've been working up to and you've been afraid to do it this entire time? Ask those questions and you're going to know the answer if you're on your purpose and if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And there's actually one more thing that you can do, and it's just something called feedback analysis, where it's you look at the world for an answer to who you are. And I know that we teach a lot of don't seek validation from other people, but think of it this way. If you walk up to 100 girls and you're talking to them and 100 of them tell you, wow, you're really not confident, or wow, you're really not funny, then the world is telling you that, hey, you need to work on your confidence and your humor. So if you're going out and you're just getting absolutely wrecked every night and you're not having fun, then that's a sign that, hey, you need to do something about it. You need to work on building this solid castle instead of putting together all these ideas to form that little sandcastle mound. And then the next concept was, how do you find your purpose? And you had two ways. One, it was the primal question, and then you take that primal question and you put it into 21st century context. Don't do it the opposite way where you try taking something that's 21st century context and then finding your primal question through that. Don't be like, man, my passion is to be an online marketer. And then it's like, okay, well, what primal question are you solving? Like, what's your nature? And lastly, the last little bit that I want to leave you guys with is that when you take that risk, once again, it's going to be very challenging. It's going to be very hard. It's not going to be easy. Nobody who's ever been successful kind of just made it and it was smooth. The entire process is really like you're falling down a cliff. You can't even see the bottom. You're getting smashed up by rocks. Your parachute isn't opening. But somehow you know that that's better than standing perched at the top of that cliff, not going anywhere. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are. I really love to read the comments and see what people think about this. Share this video if you like it, and subscribe. Thank you.